Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the grip in small sword. By that I mean how we grip it, not types of grip, interesting as that might be. Why? Comes up a lot. I've had students ask me, I read, even just this past week, I've read people discussing it online. And it's kind of an important question. How do I hold the weapon? And there are different schools of thought, different ways of doing it. Now for small sword, there's sort of a, I won't say unanimous, but if you look at the sources in the aggregate, there's a pretty clear picture that emerges of like the general way to hold it. And that's the way I usually teach it. It works for most people. It's source related, which seems important. And I will make adjustments for people based on injury or disability or just preference. Just the way I do with guards. I teach somebody initially one, but maybe down the road they like something else better, and as long as they can make it work, great. So looking at Charles Bénard, who's writing in 1653 in his True Master of Arms, he's looking at he's in a transitional period. These are artificial to a large degree, but sort of transitional rapier or late period rapier tends to be lighter. It's a little bit closer to small sword. We don't see the emphasis on offhand weapons the same way. And one of the things that he says is to put your thumb on the cross. Now, if you have a small sword trainer, you may not have a cross the way you do on a medieval sword, right? So this is obviously the cross guard. And you're not going to be holding something like this way. This is, I forget how heavy this one is, but it's probably not the way you're going to hold that. What they mean is, let me find it. So on this trainer, my thumb would go here, right? So it's kind of right where those keons are, sort of above, if I'm holding it down, above the annulets or the arms of the hilt. So I like to hold it here, partly because it keeps my hand away from the guard, just in case there's a core moment where you rush into each other. It does not happen often. I can't honestly think of the last time it did, but it's just a precaution I followed for a very long time. And I'd say, this is a little bit more extreme, but I'd say a centimeter and a half, usually about that far. And that still works rather well. The pommel's nicely situated here. My fingers are around the grip. The hand is a little bit hollow, so it can adjust pretty easily. The other thing that's important, and you'll see this in a lot of texts, is that the thumb is sort of on one side that's flat. So it depends on the weapon. We use a lot of épée blades, and so with épée blades, there's a decided way they're supposed to bend. So where the fuller is, which keeps it lighter and bendy, that's supposed to go up, right? If you use an épée blade long enough, sometimes they take a bit of a set. As long as it's in one direction, that's okay. If it starts to make an S-curve, replace it. But for me, I usually have my thumb on the fuller side, right? So where that groove is, that's where my thumb's going to be. And I will shift depending on what's going on. If I'm in third, I may actually do the opposite, right? So if I'm fencing from third, I'm going to put my thumb here. What is third? Third means my thumb is on top. Second, my thumb is to my left. First, my thumb is down. Fourth, my thumb is to the right. This is assuming a right-hander. If I'm a lefty, it's just the opposite. These positions are positions of the hand, and they correspond pretty closely to the guards. That's not an accident. And you will often see masters talking about, hold it this way and turn it this way. The master I work from the most is Liancour, and he's writing in the 1690s. There's a later edition. But I like the way he describes holding the weapon. For one, he has an interesting take on the weapon. So he advocated something without a guard. And if that seems crazy, maybe, but it is a good training tool, and here's why. One, students can see my hand. So if I'm not actually fencing, I can dispense with the glove and they can actually see where my fingers are and what they're doing. The other thing, and the reason that he advocated this particular style, is that it makes you not rely on the guard. I don't think people actually are told to do that, but you kind of find people doing it. And And what you're really pairing with is the strong, or the forte of the weapon. And if you look at a period weapon, so this is an antique small sword. It's a morning sword. Has a pretty wide blade, but it's super light. And if I'm holding it here, right, I got the same kind of grip that I had on the other one, there's not a lot of guard. I mean, that is a dinky guard. You know, there's more of my hand in that than there's behind it. So that's not going to protect me as well as preparing with this nice strong bit and getting good leverage. So that's an interesting way to do it. And for me, it's worked out pretty well. Some bruises aside, you know, it's going to happen. But it's been a useful thing. And it's periodically in class, depending on their weapon, I'll have them take their guards out and we'll just fence without them. And it's been a useful exercise. But his grip is very similar to the one in McBane and others. It's just sort of thumb on one side, the index finger on the other, sort of pinching, and the other fingers just sort of hold it against your hand. The other things that he talks about in particular, Liancour has a sort of squared grip that he advocates. This one's pretty round. But the idea behind that is you get a better purchase on the weapon. And because of the way we hold these and because of some of the actions that we have on the blade, they can fly out of your hand and you can be disarmed. So some attention to that is important. What Liancour suggests is that your hand be in demi-tierce. And so we have these sort of four major, you know, first through fourth divisions. We also have in between, you know, in between them. And so if this is tierce, where my thumb's on top, demi-tierce is sort of a little bit to my right. And the reason he likes that is it preps me to be in fourth. And fourth is sort of the paragon of parries as far as these guys were concerned. They love the parry of fourth. And there are guards, in fact, that sort of hold that weapon in fourth. And especially some of the middle guards will have your hand basically in fourth already. I tend to hold that third up in the middle if I'm using that kind of a guard, but theoretically I could be holding that in fourth. Use what works for you, but pay close attention when you read the text. Like McBane and others will talk about some of these exotic ways to hold it, for lack of a better word, such as this. And I have the pommel here, I have my index finger stretched out along the grip. And the reason to do this is because it makes the weapon longer, right? However, it's not a very secure grip. Another Scottish master, Sir William Hope, talked about why you don't put your fingers through the annulets. Now, if this was an épée de soldat, or, you know, a spadroon, I might do that. I get some really wicked finger cuts with that. But this is a small sword. This doesn't have an edge. More on that in a second. But if I put my fingers in here, and this isn't a polite situation, it's a self-defense situation, and somebody takes my weapon and starts twisting it, they can break my hand, break my fingers. So I don't want to do that, and I don't need to. I'm not going to be hacking anything with that. Most small swords, especially the later we go, don't have edges. Some of the early ones do. I think Paul Wagner actually talks about a couple of antiques he has. I don't remember the video. I'll try to find it and link it. But he has at least one that's got a decent enough profile that you could put an edge on it. And remember, people recycled. So if you had a longer rapier blade that broke and it could cut, well, then you might have a short version of something that can cut. However, for the most part, we're a very thrust-oriented group when it comes to technique. So you don't need to have, you know, kind of hammer grip to use this. That's not going to help you. And what's nice is with your fingers like this, it kind of helps you direct the point this way. As a final word, don't death grip it, right? It's, you know, people can be, oh man, I don't feel like I've got a really good grip on this. It's easy to pop out of my hand. You really only have to squeeze your fingers when you're thrusting or when you're parrying. That's it. Otherwise, you can hold it pretty loosely, provided your distance is good and you're not going to be surprised, because then it's very easy to be disarmed, which is also fun to do. So, just to recap, most of the masters sort of advocate this thumb along one of the flats and other side's kind of pinching it against the hand. Things not to do, or well, you can if you like. You can experiment with that kind of, you know, like posting in modern épée. Nothing is new. You can try that out. If you're going to try the McBane thing where you put your hand through the annulets, be careful. Don't break your hands. It sucks when you break your fingers. Trust me. I've broken, I think, all of them except for my thumb so far. Knock wood. So, yeah, don't break your fingers. It sucks. Okay, I'm gonna put the link to the article that I put up on my website here, and I'll try to find that video by Paul Wagner as well. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.